Welcome to Chai with Molly, a show where we celebrate diversity the Canadian way. I am Molly and I want to wish all my viewers a very, very happy New Year. And I hope you had a good time at Christmas with your friends and family. And I know this is going to be an awesome year. We have a great show for you, wonderful guests with information that I know you wouldn't want to miss. So stay with us. Today in our studio, we have Honorable Harinder Takhar. He's one of the 7 people contending to take Premier Dalton McGuinty's job. And people of Ontario will have a new Premier coming up very soon. So he is here in the studio with us. So let's find out what he intends to do if elected. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Molly, having me.
Our pleasure. Please tell us about your plan to take Ontario forward if elected.
I think it's really important for any leader who is trying to replace Dalton McGuinty, because the Premier has resigned, to have actually a plan. So when I launched my campaign, the very first day, I actually had a 100-day plan. It has 7 points in it.
Okay.
I think one of the major issues that our province is facing right now is $14 billion annual deficit.
Deficit, absolutely.
Yeah, if we don't tackle the issue of the deficit actually gets converted into debt, on which we pay about $10.5 billion interest at this point.
Right.
And the interest rates are very low, but if the interest rates moves up a little bit, we could be paying another $4 to $5 billion in interest.
Alone.
Yeah, alone. But that means is then you have to take it out from the essential services like the healthcare and the education. So my first point is that I will actually balance the budget a year early than what the planned target of the government is.
How do you intend to do that?
Actually, I have released a full detailed plan on that and say these are the items that I will look into it. And I want to give you, it's a 3-way plan. The one is to actually increase the economy. And in order to increase the economy, my second bullet point actually in my 100-day plan is to actually have a small business development corporation set aside, which will focus on small businesses in a holistic way. Holistic way means is, when I used to be Minister of Small Business and Consumer Services, people used to raise the issue with me is access to capital, access to foreign markets, increasing productivity. So I think we need to focus on that so we can increase the GDP.
Yes, okay.
The second is we actually need to focus also on managing our expenses. So I'm also saying is that let's say in our school system, since 2002, we have added about 25,000 new jobs.
Okay.
And 13,000 of those new jobs actually are non-teaching jobs.
Okay.
So I'm basically saying if we can eliminate 70% of non-teaching jobs that we added since 2002, because our student population is going down, we will save $800 million.
That's right. There are about 4,000 schools that are closing down every year. So why are we increasing? Yeah,
we have 120,000 less students than 2002. So I think we need to look at that.
Okay.
The third is we also need to look at is how we can achieve efficiencies. Actually, I put this point out. We have roughly about $2.4 billion uncollectible receivables in this province.
Okay.
And out of that, 1.4 actually never gets collected. So we are saying is we need to work with the federal government and other governments to make sure that we collect these receivables so we can add actually more to our revenue stream as well. Okay. And the other is we are actually $2 billion ahead compared to what the plan was. So even if we say that out of the 2 billion, 1 billion is one time, there's another billion. So I have actually identified $5.8 billion worth of savings.
Okay.
So the second point is, I said, we need to create the Ontario Development Corporation. The third is we also need to actually reward people who create jobs in Ontario.
Okay, that sounds very good to us. So tell us how you intend to do that.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is anybody who creates jobs in Ontario, which is a new job, so we will give them 10% tax credit up to $50,000 salary, so to a maximum of $5,000. So anybody who will create, so they will have this refundable tax credit which will go to the employer to create a job.
Okay, very good.
We also need to make sure is that when the new people come to our province, that we utilize them fully. So we need to move ahead with the recognition of their credentials.
That is still a major problem.
It is a major problem. Yes. I faced that 38 years ago, is still a problem, so we need to address that.
Yes.
So one of the things that we are suggesting on that front is that in the Ontario Public Service, if a person is a professional, we should give them at least 6-7 months worth of experience. So they can get the experience in their field, they have a reference now, so they can go and get a job.
How are the different associations responding to something like that? I know the resistance has been mostly from these organizations, not necessarily on the government side.
I think you are absolutely right. In recognition of qualification, we have made some improvements, but still there is a problem in that front, right? So we need to address that. But we also need to create the bridge programs.
Okay.
Right, so if somebody comes with a certain credential, let's say, is a medical doctor, we don't want them to driving taxis. Rather than we should have 6 to 8 months of the bridge programs that can actually convert their present level of education to the education that is acceptable to us. We don't want our surgeons who had a 10, 15 years experience to going through the residency programs either, right?
Exactly,
so that doesn't really make any sense. So I think we need to address those issues. But I think there is another big issue is about the unemployment of the youth. So people actually, these kids were born here, graduated here, and they cannot get a job, and there's an 18% plus unemployment rate. So we need to find a way to address those issues.
Okay, and how do you intend to do that? Because that's a major concern for a lot of people.
Actually, again, what I'm saying is if these youth have certain kind of skills.
Identify some of them.
Let's say they're architect,
okay.
they are IT professionals,
okay.
they are accountants.
Okay.
And if they can't get a job in their field, then at least we should create at least 150 opportunities for them in the interior public service, where they can do the internship for a short period of time and then can go get back to the field.
Okay.
For the North, we are actually saying we will give them incentives to the employers who will hire youth so they can live in North or in the rural areas.
Okay.
So we are doing that. The other is the my 100-day plan also includes the provision about the transit.
Okay.
So I'm saying we have a TTC, we have a York Transit, we have a Durham Transit, we have a Mississauga Transit, we have Brampton Transit, we have transits all over.
Right.
And there are routes that overlap each other, right? And that doesn't really make any sense because the bus comes from Mississauga into Toronto, then cannot pick up passengers even though the bus could be half empty.
Okay.
So we need to have all these politicians working together and come up with a seamless transit system in the next few years.
Okay. And that would save us money?
That will save us money, but it will
How much?
Improve service as well. Okay. I mean, if there's a duplication of routes, it should save us money.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
And then also the issue is that has been facing actually the new immigrants, the new drivers and so on who come to this country is about auto insurance. If you live in certain area, your auto insurance is high.
I know that. That is so unfair because I've never had any accident. I'm a responsible driver just because there are a lot of claims in the neighborhood where I live. So I'm having to pay all those extra.
Yeah, so that is actually a major issue in the Peel area as well.
Okay.
So so what I'm proposing on that front is as soon as I become a premier, if I get that chance, what I will do is I will have a working group established of the experts and actually the consumers.
Okay.
So we can address this issue. So we need to move away from where you live to what your driving record is.
Exactly.
And how your performance has been, what car do you drive, how your driving record is, and how far do you drive. Those are some of the factors that needs to be considered rather than which community do you live in.
Exactly.
Because right now if you're in Brampton, your premium is very high. If you move to Caledon, your premium is very low. But you could still be driving to Brampton every day. Just because you moved, your premium will go down. I think so that doesn't make any sense.
Right, because it should be dependent on your driving record.
That's right.
Right.
So the other point that I have made in my 100-day plan is also this, which is when you go to the stores, you pay the price that you see. So the price should be inclusive of all taxes.
Okay.
And that is a major issue with the airlines. If you are trying to book, let's say, airline ticket, you see the price, you think it's a great deal, but by the time you add all the fees and the taxes, it adds up, maybe and adds another 35% into it.
Right, which you didn't intend to.
Which you didn't intend to. You thought you were getting a great deal because your price that you're seeing may not be comparative to the other prices that you see from the US carriers and so on. So I think we need to address those issues.
I think that's brilliant because I just came back from India and little time that I had to go shopping and that's how it was. Whatever the price